Oh, hey, extra info for Key Terms 2.4. Now, there's also a crash course for the brain if you're interested in watching that for some extra info. But I'll go over these. So, the brainstem. Remember, the brainstem is the oldest part, which basically means it's the core of the brain. It was developed first. It is responsible for all the automatic survival functions. So it's got the medulla in there, it's got the reticular formation. The brainstem's responsible for, with those things in there, it's responsible for breathing, swallowing, our heart rate, blood pressure. Of course, the reticular formation has to do with our consciousness, so wakefulness and sleep. So that is the brainstem. Limbic system, remember, is an area including, it has here, I put hippocampus, amygdala, and the hypothalamus. So it's associated with emotions and drives. So it is, pain, hunger, sex, thirst, pleasure, temperature. It also, is survival too, because without those things, we wouldn't survive. I think that's all I have to say about that one. Next is the cerebral cortex. So this is basically the part that you see, when you see images of a brain, the folds that you see, those are neurons and axons. So that's the part of the brain that you see in any images. So like when I passed out the brain tattoos last class, you're looking at the cerebral cortex. This is the main control center and info processing center of your brain. It is the part that is part of like higher levels of nervous system functioning. So not simple movement, it includes your motor and sensory cortex, your cerebral cortex. So it's not necessarily responsible for simple moving, but more new movement. Fancy association with things. So higher level thinking. So language and also memory that includes higher level thinking. Okay, so that's the cerebral cortex. So plasticity. Think of the video that we watched of the girl who had half of her brain removed, and doctors didn't really know what was going to happen. She was 3 years old. She is a perfect example of a case study, obviously very rare that somebody would get half of their brain removed. And she had very little damage overall. She had a limp and part of her arm didn't have full mobility, but proof that our brain can change, especially during childhood. That's why they said it was so important that she did it earlier in life. It reorganized itself and built new pathways for all of the functions, not only the survival functions, but also the voluntary and higher level thinking functions are able to essentially grow back and make new pathways. Neurogenesis. This is the video that you guys watched last class. So this is the formation of new neurons. Remember, it used to be thought that you essentially at age 25, you were done growing. Your brain was done. And that we only use, certain part of our brain. There's been figures where, we only use 3% of our brain. That is now not the case. New science is coming out showing that there are many ways we can build neurons in our brain. And remember, I talked about during my mindset and brain lecture that we want more neurons. We want those connections to be thick and strong. New neurons mean that we are going to be, quote, smarter. Okay, we're going to be better at things. We're going to know things. We're going to be quicker at things. So reflect back to your video that you watched on the 5 areas and ways that you can grow neurons. For example, okay, eating right, making sure that you sleep, making sure that you are challenging yourself. And this is through new experiences. So my example I used was, go take a hike somewhere you've never been before. Go eat a different kind of food that you've never tried. Explore, have a conversation with somebody that is different than you or somebody that you've never talked to before. When you're doing that, you are growing neurons. And then lastly, I will say, don't forget about having a growth mindset and knowing when you fail, you are actually building neurons as long as you continue to try after that failure. If you fail and you stop, that's a different story. You will not build neurons then. You're teaching yourself to stop when you do not succeed.